Hello, my name is Nia Duggins, and I am the Business Issues Policy Representative at the National Association of Realtors. Today, we're going to talk about the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, which is a newly created program under the CARES Act, which passed on March 27th of this year. The CARES Act is the largest stimulus package that we've seen in our nation's history, providing over $2.2 trillion in relief to families, businesses, and business owners, and to healthcare workers. Under the CARES Act, independent contractors and self-employed individuals are now eligible to receive unemployment benefits. The benefits are offered under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, which is fully administered by states, but fully funded by the federal government. This means that in order to apply for these benefits, individuals must apply in their respective states and must apply through the state unemployment office. The benefits are available for up to 39 weeks for eligible individuals, and full or partial benefits are available for individuals who are either unable or unavailable to work due to the pandemic public health crisis. State unemployment offices will make individual eligibility determinations, and individuals will be required to provide these state unemployment offices with information regarding verification of income, as well as other business documents showing that the individuals are self-employed and also have been unemployed due to the COVID-19 public health crisis. Many states are up and running, but we understand that some states are not able to offer these benefits just yet because they are challenged with technology in working to develop the infrastructure for this particular program, as well as understanding the clarity and guidance that has been issued from the Department of Labor. The U.S. Department of Labor did offer guidance to states in about a week and a half after the CARES Act passed. However, states have struggled to understand how to roll out this program, and so this is also causing some delays. For more information about this program, you can visit nar.realtor/coronavirus-UE to find out more about NAR's efforts in advocating to ensure that self-employed individuals and independent contractors were part of the stimulus relief. NAR successfully advocated to ensure that realtors were a part of this package. However, there are some delays in ensuring that the benefits do reach individual business owners as well as realtors. So we're working to ensure that we provide the greatest resource in terms of information and guidance on how to apply for these benefits. Today, I'm joined by two experts from Jones Day and also two realtor members so that we can take a deeper dive into understanding pandemic unemployment assistance benefits and how they can apply to you. I am joined by Natalia DeLune and Jonathan Linus, top labor and employment lawyers from the law firm Jones Day, who will provide us with more information about unemployment benefits and the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. Natalia is a partner at Jones Day and has more than 9 years of experience counseling and representing companies in all aspects of federal and state employment law. Her experience covers a wide range of matters, including but not limited to wage and hour compliance, employer discrimination, employee mobility issues, and Family and Medical Leave Act issues. Jonathan is also a partner at Jones Day who works on a broad range of labor and employment matters. He has a special expertise working on joint employer issues impacting franchisees, wage and hour class actions, and other litigation matters before the National Labor Relations Board and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Thank you both for joining us here today.
Thank you, Nia. It's good to be here.
Thank you, Nia.
Let's start with the basics of how states are administering these benefits and recent actions across the country. Hi, John. How's it going?
It's going well, Nia. How are you?
Good, doing well. Can you briefly explain how unemployment benefits work? There is no federal program, correct? And they are traditionally only available to W-2 employees paid by an employment tax assessed on employers. Correct?
Yeah, you know, Nia, it's interesting. Most people think of unemployment as a state program. Actually, though, it's a joint program of the federal government and each individual state government. The benefits, as you noted, are administered at the state level, however. There are some basic baseline rules that are established by federal law, but beyond those rules, the states really have flexibility to decide, for example, who's eligible for unemployment, how those benefits are calculated, the amount of the benefits that applicants will receive, what's required in the application process, and other things of that nature. So let's talk for just a quick minute about how unemployment benefits work. As a rule of thumb, an employee will qualify for what we'll call traditional unemployment benefits to separate it from the CARES Act benefits that we're going to talk about today. If they'll qualify for traditional unemployment benefits if they're unemployed through no fault of their own. In most states, that means the employee was separated from their job because there wasn't work available. To be eligible, an employee also has to be available for and looking for work, and the employee has to establish that they worked for a certain period of time and made a certain amount of money before becoming unemployed. As you noted earlier, the specific requirements will vary from state to state. As you mentioned, in nearly all states, traditional unemployment benefits are available only to employees who receive a W-2 from their employer, not to people who are self-employed or independent contractors. In Washington and maybe a few other states, certain self-employed workers and independent contractors may be eligible for traditional unemployment benefits, but the states will evaluate that on a case-by-case basis.
In the CARES Act, Congress expanded access to employment benefits and outlined that for states to offer these new PUA benefits, they must first sign an agreement with the Department of Labor. Have all states signed this agreement, and how is this expansion going in the states? DOL has issued numerous advisories to help participating states, but why is it taking a bit longer to get these benefits out the door?
Yeah, that's correct, Nia. So the CARES Act adds pandemic unemployment assistance, or PUA, in addition to the traditional unemployment benefits that states offer. PUA provides benefits to independent contractors and self-employed individuals like Realtors who may not otherwise be eligible for traditional benefits. As you said, before being able to obtain funding for PUA benefits from the federal government, states have to enter into an agreement with the federal government. Most states announced that they entered into these agreements soon after the CARES Act passed. The agreements aren't publicly available, so we can't really check, but we expect that nearly all, if not all, states have entered into these agreements by now. We know of 20 states that have already begun paying out PUA benefits. Now, the rollout of PUA benefits in the states has not been smooth. The program was put together quickly, so states had to develop their own application forms from scratch. They had to train their staff on the new eligibility rules quickly. They had to figure out, for example, what documentation independent contractors and self-employed applicants would need to establish to prove their income and their past employment. And ultimately, they were just understaffed to administer the amount of benefits applications they received. And I think, as was publicized, various agency websites even crashed. So while we have on one hand some states that have issued really helpful guidance, have made these benefits available, and have, PUA specific applications for benefits. We have other states that are still trying to figure out even how to administer these new programs. And they have a huge backlog of applications. In this latter category, some of these states are asking applicants to reapply for PUA benefits at a later date. Others are asking PUA applicants to file, a regular request for traditional benefits and then participate in a phone interview later to, collect the information that's needed under the PUA program. So, given the wide variety of progress we're seeing in different states, people who are thinking of applying for PUA really need to visit their state's unemployment website, for the guidance that's necessary to apply.
Thank you, John, for that information. Very valuable information. Hi, Natalia. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Nia. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us today. Let's now dive into the application process and what realtors should know when applying for unemployment. Thanks to NAR's advocacy efforts, the CARES Act expansion of unemployment eligibility included independent contractors who traditionally have not had access to such benefits. Walk us through the application process for a typical self-employed real estate professional, including where to apply, the qualifications to meet under the CARES Act, necessary documentation, and how this may vary based on state.
Sure, absolutely. So as John just touched on, even though PUA is a creation of the Federal CARES Act, PUA applicants must still apply for benefits at their state level in their particular state. So for each real estate professional who's applying, they should be applying for benefits in the state in which they work. Many people work in more than one state. And so you, in that situation, would apply for benefits in any of those states, the state of your choosing in which you worked. The states that are ready to process PUA claims will provide a link to the unemployment application that you should be using. So as John mentioned, you should check the unemployment agency's website for that particular application. Another option to navigate to the right place is careeronestop.org, which is a website run by the Department of Labor. It's a great resource to find what you're looking for as a self-employed person or independent contractor. As we know from what John was saying, not all states are quite ready to process PUA claims. California, for example, began accepting applications just a couple of days ago. Ohio will begin processing them in early to mid-May. And in Ohio, individuals are encouraged to pre-register, for example. So, check your state. Independent contractors and self-employed individuals qualify for PUA if they are unemployed or partially unemployed directly because of COVID-19 related reasons. The type of reasons that trigger qualification include things like you yourself are diagnosed with COVID, someone in your household has been diagnosed with COVID, the individual has primary caregiving responsibility, but schools are closed, or the individual does not have a job as a direct result of COVID. Those eligible for traditional benefits under the normal state law regime are not eligible for PUA. Guidance issued by the Federal Department of Labor just this week emphasizes this by telling the states that they have to verify whether an applicant would be eligible for traditional benefits before they're able to approve PUA benefits. And this makes sense because, as you discussed in the beginning, the federal government is footing the entire bill for PUA benefits, unlike for traditional benefits, which are through the state. As you're applying, applicants will be asked to certify that they're out of work through no fault of their own, that they're generally able and available to work. They will be asked to provide proof of income over the past 12 to 18 month time frame. They may also be asked to provide their employer ID number if available, if applicable to you, or their social security number and other contact information, the business name they operate under, or that they are self-employed or an independent contractor. As to proof of wages, we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but 1099 forms are great, or pay stubs. They'll also be asked for direct deposit information so that the state can pay benefits directly that way. It could take the agency several weeks to process the application, so be aware of that. And once it's processed, applicants will receive a written notification of approval or of denial of benefits, as well as the weekly benefit amount that the person is eligible. Usually that comes through the mail, but it could also come through an online portal depending on your state. You'll also have, the instructions will tell you how you recertify each week to make sure you continue to get the benefits each week. If your state hasn't posted instructions on these aspects of the application, we suggest continuing to check regularly. Every day, new states are posting new guidance or changing their guidance, so it doesn't hurt to just continue checking. Also, for a great example of how the PUA application process works step by step, the state of Tennessee published an instructional video regarding the application process and weekly certification required in that state. So even if you're not in Tennessee, it could be helpful to see firsthand, what the application process looks like.
Thank you, Natalia, for that information. Can you speak to whether self-employed individuals and independent contractors must first apply in their state for regular unemployment and then be denied prior to being eligible for pandemic unemployment assistance? This is a question that we've received quite frequently from a lot of members. And how does this application step vary by state? You spoke to it some, but could you elaborate just a little bit more for us, please?
Sure. It's a great question, and the answer is it does vary by state. Some states are currently requiring self-employed people and independent contractors to first apply as though they were applying for traditional unemployment benefits, have their claim denied, and then in that denial letter, receive instructions on how they should apply for PUA. This is currently the case, for example, in Virginia, Washington, D.C., and New York, among other states. And then you have kind of the other category of states that are just more advanced in this area already. States like Massachusetts have created an entirely separate application process designed for PUA benefits. In states like that, you wouldn't have to first apply for traditional benefits to then get a denial and then apply for PUA. So the states that have moved more quickly and efficiently to design their PUA specific program, they're typically the ones that also have clear and detailed instructions to applicants.
Can you also now speak to what if an applicant, for example, an independent contractor or a self-employed individual, has not filed their 2019 taxes, or if they have jointly filed with a spouse who may or may not still be working during this pandemic?
Sure. So as you know, when applying for benefits, you'll be asked to provide documentation of your earnings. This is because the weekly benefit, for eligibility purposes and also to determine the weekly benefit amount, which will depend largely on 2019 income. So if a real estate professional has not yet filed their 2019 taxes, it's okay. They will receive, at the very least, the minimum weekly benefit amount under the CARES Act PUA program. This is a specific number for each state. It's equal to 50% of the state's average weekly traditional unemployment payment. That number, it varies by state and by quarter. So the Department of Labor publishes a quarterly program letter that lists each state's average weekly benefit amount and the 50% calculation that will apply to PUA. The most recent program letter is from just this March, and it's in place from April through June 2020. And so just kind of by way of example, the current minimum amount in Texas is $208 per week. The range is somewhere between $113 and $230 per week, depending on the state. And so states have to use this number as the minimum PUA benefit amount. Nobody can receive less, even if you haven't filed your taxes and even if your 2019 income was very limited. It's also important to note that after you do file your 2019 taxes, you can seek a redetermination of your PUA benefit amount. If your income entitles you to a higher weekly PUA benefit amount than what you're already receiving, you'll receive a true up payment to kind of account for that gap. So I think I answered your question with that. In addition to your payment, you'll also get the $600 FPUC weekly payment that John referenced earlier, and that goes through July 31st, 2020.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can add, Nia, that the states are doing a fairly good job of paying out that $600 payment. We know of a number of states that have already started paying those out.
Yes, and I do know that DOL also recently released information that all 50 states will be issuing the additional $600. So that just came out actually yesterday. So it's hot off the press, I guess.
Absolutely. And the nice thing about it is that you don't have to apply separately for those $600. It's rolled into your application for PUA. So if you get your PUA benefit, if you get at least $1 in PUA benefits, you'll get the full $600. You asked a separate question as well about jointly filing applications with your spouse, which I will get to in just one second. But I did want to touch back to the point about what documentation will be accepted to verify income.
Yes.
A minority of the states will accept a huge variety of documents, which is great, including not just 1099 forms, but also pay stubs, bank receipts, business records, contracts, invoices, billing statements, something that proves what your earnings were. Most states, though, will only accept a subset of that, so you should be careful and look at the agency's website to ensure what the state will accept to verify your income. Now, moving on to the last part of the question, if an applicant jointly filed their 2019 taxes with their spouse, this doesn't impact their PUA benefit amount at all. This is so, even if the spouse continues to be employed or regardless of how much the spouse is making, the PUA benefits depend solely on the applicant's eligibility, and same with the weekly benefit amount. It just depends on the applicant's income.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that and also explaining that nuance, because that is definitely, again, one of the major questions we receive. Real estate professionals typically aren't paid in a traditional hourly rate, but they typically get paid by commission. And so many states have not yet updated their unemployment applications to reflect self-employed nuances like this. What guidance or advice can you provide to realtors facing some of these application challenges?
Sure, and I'm sure it's confusing to see questions that don't really apply to you, and you're not sure how to answer them. So it is correct that many states' applications don't reflect the realities of how an independent contractor or self-employed person operates and earns money. For instance, you might see, what is the name of your employer on your application, on your initial application for benefits, the right answer may vary depending on the state. Some states are looking for real estate professionals to designate that they are self-employed, for example, or to designate the name of the realtor's registered broker or registered business. If you're unsure how to answer, we recommend picking up the phone and calling the state agency. With respect to, the fact that real estate professionals are often paid on a commission basis, really, regardless of how an applicant is paid, whether it's on a salary basis, through tips, or an hourly wage, the unemployment agency evaluates the total amount of wages earned over this 12 to 18 month period in time. It then calculates that total amount for each quarter to determine eligibility and weekly benefit amount. So put another way, the eligibility and benefit amounts are calculated the same way, no matter the form in which you're paid, whether it's commissions or not.
Yeah, one thing I can add there is that some states differ in how they evaluate when commissions are received or when they're due over that 18-month period. Some states will say it is, commission should be allocated to when the sale that generated the commissions was made. Other states say it's when the commissions are actually paid or received by the applicant. So there's some nuances there as well.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that, because that is definitely very confusing at times. And so that is good to know that it will vary by state, but that definitely for our members, they should check with their state on how they should claim those. Okay, so I do want to ask also, Natalia, just about how, what real estate brokers should do, for example, if they are being asked to verify unemployment status for independent contractor agents applying for unemployment.
Sure. So, if a broker receives notice that one of its independent contractors filed a claim seeking traditional unemployment benefits, it could be one of two things happening. It could be the case that the independent contractor incorrectly filed for traditional benefits rather than PUA in the states that have PUA specific applications. Or, like I mentioned earlier, perhaps the person wrote down the broker's name under the employer category, right? And that's not really what the agency was looking for. So regardless of how it happened, the broker could take steps to contest the unemployment claim by notifying the agency that the individual is not actually an employee, but that the person is an independent contractor.
John, I'm going to now turn to you to answer this question for us. Once an application is processed, how are individuals notified about their eligibility? If they are denied, can they appeal, or is there a redetermination process, or apply again?
So, each state will provide the applicant with written notice of whether they are or are not eligible based on the information that the applicant submits. And if they're eligible, what their weekly benefit amount will be. They usually notify you by letter, although in the internet age, some states may move to email or other notification methods that are a little more user-friendly and efficient.
And I would just jump in to add that applicants, if they're denied PUA benefits, they can appeal or seek a redetermination of the benefit amount. And this is the same appeal right that a person would have under the traditional unemployment scheme. Rules regarding the appeals process vary by state, but typically you'll get instructions on how to appeal with your determination letter. And usually an appeal will end with some sort of hearing, whether it's by telephone or in person, with a referee or independent third party who will decide the benefits decision.
Just as a follow-up, do individuals have to pay taxes on these benefits that they receive? For John or Natalia?
Yeah,
Yes.
I can answer. Yes. Yes, they have to pay taxes. Yes.
Okay. So we unfortunately have heard some anecdotes and stories about fraud with state unemployment programs where criminals are calling applicants and pretending to be state labor offices to personally ask individuals to verify their information, or they're seeking to obtain information from individuals who are seeking these unemployment benefits. So how should individuals applying for these benefits protect against fraud, and what are some protections being put in place in various states?
That's right, Nia. Unfortunately, these scams are happening across the country. One current one is that a person will call impersonating an unemployment agency and ask for credit card information to finalize your application, to pay your benefits filing fee. There's no filing fee, first of all, so don't provide your credit card information over the phone. State agencies are aware of these types of scams, and some have issued helpful guidance to applicants. Basically have your radar up, right? Verify the identity of the caller by asking them questions, asking them to confirm the date on which you filed your claim. Most states really, if this person is calling you, you wouldn't want to file your benefits on that phone call. to file, use the website or the official telephone number on the website. And if you have any doubts, this advice kind of tells you to hang up. Hang up and call the state's official number to verify that call. Some states have other specific protections, like New Hampshire will assure applicants that its agency will never send you a text message requesting information. So if you ever receive a text message in New Hampshire, you will know it's not actually from the agency. So as with some of our advice today, check your agency's website on those specific scams that are occurring in your state.
Thank you for that information, and definitely informing our members on how to stay safe even when applying for these benefits and verifying their information. So John, we talked a lot about eligibility and the impact on benefits received. For example, realtors who may be teleworking or still receiving an occasional commission check from past transactions. Let's walk through now some of these specific questions that we've been getting. So one of the major questions is, in states where real estate has been deemed essential, does that mean a real estate professional is ineligible for unemployment? And also, can you speak to, as states begin to reopen, what that means in terms of unemployment eligibility for independent contractors?
Sure. So first, no, it's not necessarily the case, that if you're in an industry deemed essential, that you're ineligible for unemployment benefits, whether that's traditional benefits or PUA benefits. There really is just no relevance to that. So even in states where real estate may be classified as an essential industry, not every real estate professional continues to be fully employed, earning what they were earning over the measurement period, that usually 12 to 18 months prior. There's nothing we've seen in the CARES Act or guidance that indicates that workers in essential industries are somehow ineligible for pandemic unemployment assistance. Your second question was whether how reopening could influence their eligibility for unemployment, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and the answer to that is that as states begin to reopen, realtors, like many other professionals, will begin to earn more income. And as you begin to earn more income, you can end up reducing, or if you make too much money, ultimately eliminating your ability to be eligible for unemployment benefits. It's really a determination that's tied to what you made over this measurement period against what you're currently making. And so as economies begin to flourish a little more from state to state, realtors will begin, I hope, to make more money, and that in effect may make them, eligible for less or no unemployment benefits moving forward.
Okay, and can you also speak to whether agents should, for example, if they're collecting unemployment, should they retire their license or allow their license to go inactive in order to be eligible to receive unemployment during a given time frame?
I think Natalia mentioned it earlier, but one of the elements of being eligible for unemployment benefits, both PUA and for traditional benefits, is that you're available for work. And so if they're deciding that they don't want a career in real estate and they want a career elsewhere where they're going to be available for work, then sure, go ahead, retire your license and pursue work elsewhere. But I don't advise against retiring your license just to claim unemployment. The Department of Labor has been clear, with at least respect to this $600 additional payment that they're making, that individuals who purposely hold themselves out of the job market because they think they can make more money on unemployment are actually committing, what's equivalent to fraud on the government. So I don't want to see anybody get in trouble. Obviously, it's not something I would recommend unless you're planning to change careers and look for work elsewhere.
Thank you for clarifying that and providing us the information on that. Can you also speak to partial unemployment and telework with pay? Those are definitely talked about within the DOL guidance as well as within the CARES Act. So can you speak to what telework with pay or partial benefits would look like for independent contractors and self-employed individuals?
Sure. So individuals who telework with pay but have had their hours or salary reduced, are still eligible for partial unemployment benefits. But as I mentioned earlier, any income you are receiving currently, can reduce your benefits. And if you earn too much, it ultimately could make you ineligible for benefits under state law. States really vary in how they calculate these partial unemployment benefits and in what amount of income per week they consider too high for the individual to qualify for benefits. Unfortunately, the formulas for calculating these benefits aren't simple, Nia, so it's hard to kind of fit it all into one box. Most states determine a person's weekly benefit amount based on a percentage of their past earnings up to a cap. A person that can then usually earn up to a certain percentage of their past earnings, let's say 20% as an example, without reducing their weekly benefit amount. As that person begins to earn over that artificial number I created, 20%, then their benefits are usually reduced dollar for dollar for every dollar over that amount that they received. And eventually they'll just earn so much, right, at 120%, where they're not eligible for any benefits any longer. The other thing to mention here is that, non-work related income can also reduce your benefits. That includes, Social Security benefits, short-term disability payments, retirement benefits, workers' comp payments, severance payments. There's a number of other kind of non-work related income you could receive that could influence the amount of benefits you're receiving. It all really just depends on the law of the state where you're receiving those benefits.
That's very helpful. Just in understanding how these benefits work. I wanted to ask you next, we've received definitely a lot of inquiries about the PPP program, the EIDL, SBA loans, and PUA, right, and unemployment. And so people want to know, can I receive under each of these programs, and what does that look like in terms of unemployment benefits and that correlation? The CARES Act does not specifically speak to coordination between the SBA loan program and also unemployment. And so can you just give us an idea of how that works and what we should expect in terms of impacts when it relates to unemployment?
It's a difficult question, Mia, and I think that if you search the internet, you're going to find different guidance on this point. So our review of the CARES Act, there is nothing explicit in the text of the act or the current federal guidance that we've seen that explicitly prohibits someone from both receiving a PPP loan or economic injury disaster loan and also applying for unemployment. Now, that said, the PPP requires, in order for you to have loan forgiveness, that you spend 75% of the loan, which can be up to 2.5 times, your payroll over a given period of time, specifically on payroll. So it may preclude both, achieving loan forgiveness under the PPP and also receiving unemployment benefits. But ultimately, to decide whether a PPP loan or a EIDL loan or applying for unemployment makes the most sense financially for any realtor, they need to carefully consider what the program provides, along with those requirements, like the 75% that I mentioned, and if necessary, really consult with an accountant on that.
So I just have one last question for you.
Okay.
And this is the $1 million question. Do we think that PUA benefits or funding rather will run out in each respective states? And what does that mean for realtors in terms of applying? How soon should they apply? And will this money run out?
No. I mean, my belief is no. There's little need to worry about the money running out for the PUA. And I say this because, the CARES Act provides 100% federal funding for all unemployment claims under the PUA program. I anticipate you're asking because the PPP initially ran out of money. And the PPP, though, was designated by a specific, 300 plus $billion amount that ran out in the first round. I don't think that's going to happen with PUA benefits. With respect to, unemployment taxes and whether those could become higher, I think it's unlikely for the same reason that there's going to be any increase in unemployment taxes, because of this, 100% federal backing for PUA benefits. There's that wrinkle with, whether independent contractors, the fact that self-employed and independent contractors, individuals are applying for PUA benefits that could somehow raise the taxes. I don't think that that's going to happen. And in most states, nobody's required to pay taxes for those benefits. It's simply a creature of the new CARES Act law. And so I don't see them changing the laws to somehow make you contribute taxes to cover, independent contractor or self-employed individuals' receipt of these funds.
Yes, well, definitely thank you for that information. And that is definitely great information for us right now during this pandemic and also for our members. So thank you both to John and Natalia for the feedback and your responses and just giving us this valuable information. We've discussed the major programmatic aspects of the newly created Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, and now we will gain a realtor perspective on this program. Today, I am joined by two realtors, Crystal Berglund and Austin Rowe, who will share their experiences on applying for and receiving benefits under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program in their respective states. Crystal is a realtor and associate broker with Keller Williams First in Michigan's Upper Peninsula and has been a realtor for over 19 years. Austin is a realtor associate with Captain and Company in Memphis, Tennessee, and serves as an active member of NAGL Rep and on the Realtor Political Action Committee in the greater Memphis area. Thank you both for sharing your story. Hi, Crystal. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Nia. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Please tell us just a little bit about your experience in applying for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance benefits in Michigan.
Sure. I think I've been through a little bit of everything that John and Natalia went over. The last week of March, when they said that independent contractors could qualify for unemployment, I went ahead and I applied through the Michigan website, the UIA website. They didn't have the contractor's application available at the website at that time, so it was hard. I didn't have a lot of the answers that the system was requiring. I used a lot of 9s and 0s because I do work as a sole proprietor under my own social security number, so I didn't have an EIN number. I did get the application to submit. It sat there for about a week, and finally I was denied because they were asking me to provide a 940, which obviously I didn't have as an independent contractor. So then it came out that the state was going to be rolling out an application where an independent contractor could apply, but they said that if you had been denied, that they were going to be physically going through every denied application. That was what they first said. And then after they rolled out that new application, they asked that you go log back in and apply through the new application. So that rolled out, I believe, on April 13th. The system crashed on April 13th because I think there were too many independent contractors trying to apply on that day. I went on late on the 14th and I was able to put in my information as an independent contractor, upload my 1099 from 2019. It took about a week before anything really happened with the site. The UIA director had a couple question and answers on their Facebook page. So I attended some of those. They said just to be patient. They only update the system once a day, so there was no need to log back in multiple times a day to check to see if your status had changed. So I gave it a couple days, and then On April 20th, I saw that I was approved, but it had a $0 amount, and it sat there for a few days. And then I read some more online articles that said if you went in and you updated your profile and your settings to include your payment information, which I had originally put in when I did the original UIA application at the end of March. So I went in there and updated my banking information for my direct deposit. The next day it populated with the amounts I was approved for, and it let me certify for the last 4 weeks. So I certified payments on the 23rd of April. On the 25th of April, I logged back in. It had all the amounts that I was going to be getting direct deposited for, and then my direct deposit was input into my bank account on the 27th, on Monday.
Awesome. Thank you for providing that information. What advice would you give to other realtors who are getting frustrated and really annoyed that a lot of the state systems are inefficient or they can't get through on the line? Do you have any words of wisdom that you could share?
I think these are new programs. I think we just have to be patient. I guess I feel blessed now after listening to John that our state actually has it, and that we even got the additional 600 in our deposits. So I guess be patient and just read and go on to your state. If your state has a unemployment website, maybe they have question and answers. I found that to be very, very helpful because other people have the same questions that we have. Just watch and read and listen to anything that you can, and be really patient.
Thanks so much, Crystal.
You're welcome.
Hi, Austin. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Doing well. I wanted to know if you could walk us through the application process for applying for pandemic unemployment assistance benefits in Tennessee, and tell us what your experience was like.
Okay, so I waited until Tennessee updated their system, their unemployment system, to allow for independent contractors to actually apply. They actually put an additional page within the unemployment system for you to select that you are in fact an independent contractor, and then every time you certify, it actually waives the job seeking requirement. And then, so I did that on April 8th, and then they came out with a video explaining it for independent contractors on like April 15th or something like that. So I had already applied, and I was like, well, I hope I got it right. And then I got approved on April 16th, and I got my first payment last Tuesday. So it went relatively, I think I'm fortunate because I think it went relatively quick for me. It was, 2 to 3 weeks from the time I applied to the time that I got it. And I feel like I was fortunate for that, but that's how it was for me.
Okay, and what did you find helpful, I guess, just in terms of your application process, or what information can you provide to other fellow realtors about the process that maybe you learned that you didn't know?
Well, this is my first time applying for unemployment benefits, so I would go to the Tennessee. I watched the video after the fact. Go to the Tennessee's website. It might be helpful for other states. I don't know what the process is in other states. To be honest, when it came down, when I had a question during the whole process, I sent a help desk ticket into the Department of Labor like every day, asking the same question until I got a response back, and it worked for me. But be patient. I mean, we're in a situation where we have millions upon millions of people unemployed, and the systems are inundated, and they're working on a skeleton staff anyways. So just be as patient as you can and find as many helpful resources on your Department of Labor's website to help you get through the application.
Well, thank you, Austin. Definitely thanks for sharing your story, and Crystal as well for providing us with this information just about your experiences in applying for these benefits, because it's definitely helpful for other realtors to know that it's everyday folks like them who are, applying for these benefits and patiently waiting, and also we're in this, really in this together as we better understand how these programs are rolling out and how the benefits also are rolling out with implementation. So thank you. To Natalia and John from Jones Day, thank you for lending your expertise and providing us with information about unemployment benefits and the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program so that realtors can better understand the program. And thank you to Crystal and Austin for sharing your bold and optimistic stories about your experiences applying for unemployment benefits in your state to help inspire and encourage realtors to learn more about the benefits available to them during this critical time. For more information and resources about the Pandemic Unemployment Benefits Program, please visit nar.realtor/coronavirus-UE. Again, the website is nar.realtor/coronavirus-UE for more information about the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program and other information that can help you during this time. So thank you all so much for being a part of this and providing us with so much insight.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
Thank you.